Well, plenty of that. Bad blood between past and present Prime Ministers has plummeted to a new low, with Malcolm Turnbull and Tony Abbott publicly clashing in Parliament over gun laws. Christopher Pyne and Anthony Albanese join us now. Good morning, guys.
Good morning, Carl.
Okay, forget about Clinton and Trump yesterday. Abbott and Turnbull, that was the biggest show in town. How was it for you to sit ringside with that show yesterday, Christopher?
Well, no one is at odds in the government about gun laws at all, Carl. That's just a complete distraction from the Labor Party, from the fact that they will not support the Australian Building and Construction Commission coming back.
Okay.
Turnbull and Malcolm Turnbull and Tony Abbott are both saying that we never supported the watering down of the Howard gun laws. In fact, because of the actions of both governments, the gun laws have been strengthened by putting a temporary ban on bringing in lever-action shotguns. So it's quite the opposite to the way the Labor Party has been trying to portray it.
Well,
this is another run of the Mediscare campaign.
You did a pretty decent job of portraying it in your own way yesterday. Tony Abbott says there was no deal. The PM says there was. Who's lying?
There wasn't a deal of any kind, and everyone knows that's the case, to water down John Howard's gun laws. In fact, John Howard's gun laws were strengthened by the actions that the Abbott government took, then re-supported by the Turnbull government. If neither of those governments had taken action under John Howard's gun laws, the lever-action shotgun would have come into Australia. So Labor's trying to do here what they did with the Mediscare campaign, which is to say black is white and make people believe it.
Just to clarify, there was no deal. There was no deal done, right?
No, there was no deal to water down John Howard's gun laws.
So what was the deal about then?
There was certainly a deal to put a sunset clause on the temporary ban, because we wanted to make sure that the states and territories visited this subject and classified this particular weapon.
And Tony Abbott didn't know about it?
Well, it's quite clear that the government knew about it, because Michael Keenan and Peter Dutton made the arrangement to ensure that this matter didn't just sit there forever on the books, but that the states and territories had to return to the subject of the classification of the lever-action shotgun.
Do you accept that Tony Abbott? Do you accept that Tony Abbott didn't know about it?
Look, I don't know what was in his mind or not at the time. Look, I'm not in the Prime Minister's office, but I can tell you one thing: there is no fissure between Malcolm Turnbull and Tony Abbott over the fact that we will not water down John Howard's gun laws. In fact, what we are doing is strengthening those, and we want the states and territories to take the action they need to take to classify this particular weapon. That's why the temporary ban was put in place. The sunset clause was put in place to make sure the subject was revisited, as any sensible government would do, rather than just allow it to go on into the future.
Christopher, Tony Abbott and Malcolm Turnbull despise each other.
Not true.
Are you serious?
Absolutely serious. They are very old friends. Of course they have a difference of opinion about who the Prime Minister should be. That's been played out in public. We know that.
Yeah.
And Malcolm Turnbull is the Prime Minister.
He effectively called Tony Abbott a liar in Parliament yesterday.
Rubbish. And Tony Abbott said on the 7:30 report on Wednesday night that he wanted the Turnbull government to have an emphatic win at the next election. So he's 100% behind supporting the Turnbull government.
Malcolm Turnbull effectively called Tony Abbott a liar in Parliament yesterday.
Not true.
All right. So he says, I'm satisfied the Minister for Justice acted in full knowledge of the PM's office at the time. At best, that's a contradiction. At worst, it is a lie.
And Tony Abbott, at the end of question time, stood up and made it perfectly clear
that he didn't like it.
That there was never any attempt to water down the Howard government's gun laws. In fact, we strengthened them, and Malcolm Turnbull has said exactly the same thing. Both Malcolm Turnbull and Tony Abbott are on the same page on this issue, and no attempt by the Labor Party to create a distraction will deny the fact that they don't want to bring the CFMEU to heel. They are still running a
stop digging, Christopher. Stop digging.
I'm being asked the questions. No one's interested in your views this morning, apparently.
That's because
you're under the pump.
That's because the whole show is about the government.
Yeah.
I mean, if they had any entrepreneurs in the modern Liberal Party, they'd be selling popcorn outside the House of Reps chamber. Because what we see is that this mob are so divided they can't even agree on how to rewrite history. Yesterday you had Malcolm Turnbull essentially call Tony Abbott a liar in Parliament, and then you had Tony Abbott return serve and stand up in an extraordinary contribution and essentially call Malcolm Turnbull out. I mean, this was a cage fight, on national television on the floor of the House of Representatives. This is a divided government without an agenda, without a sense of purpose. It's just about whether Malcolm Turnbull can survive or not. And Tony Abbott now, it's on out there for all to see, and it is all of Malcolm Turnbull's own making, because he was incapable of giving an answer to a pretty clear question on Tuesday about the Guns for Votes deal.
That's all you get
There's
time
never
for,
been any such deal, and everyone agrees that there's never been any such deal.
You just said there was.
This is just exactly
you just
the same.
said there was with Michael Keenan.
You said there was a sunset clause.
How can there be? How
You
can
said
there be
there
guns?
was with
Hang on,
Keenan and
rubbish.
Dutton.
How can there be a guns
You
for
just
votes
confirmed
deal
that there was.
when, in fact, the guns were stopped from coming into the
You
country?
just confirmed that there was, and Malcolm
No,
Turnbull this week
Stop running your
left it
Mediscare
open
campaigns
as
on
well.
guns.
All right.
Left it open over industrial relations.
This is so
clause.
tense today.
The guns were stopped. The guns were blocked from coming into the
And
country.
you got a meeting today.
The guns were not allowed
And
to
the
come into
government
the
hasn't
country.
been able to say what its
Pyne.
position is.
Christopher Pyne, can you just cool your jets for a second? You're getting very animated, and I don't like it.
It's just not true. I mean, what Anthony's saying
You'd
is
be
not
better
true.
off,
Right.
Christopher, to
You
just
guys-
say less. Less
Okay.
is more.
You guys, can you
Well,
hug
when
it
are you
out?
going to challenge Bill Shorten?
Less is more. Less is
When are you going
more.
to challenge Bill
That's
Shorten?
Bill's going all right.
That's right, because the issues are us.
We
Just
all
keep
know
telling
that you want to be.
okay,
We all
listen.
know you want Bill Shorten's job.
Just
See you
keep
next
telling
week.
And you'd be
yourself
better
that.
at it.
Jeez.
You'd be better at it. You're a much nicer person.
It's still going. Keep
It's
going.
still going.
You guys keep going. Lisa, over to you.